Let's get hyped. Welcome into the Husker247 HypeCast. I'm Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson, and this week's special guest, Kevin Sjuts. Kevin has joined us for every Illinois game, I believe, going back to 2020. I think was the first year we started bringing in special guests to freshen up the HypeCast and make it a little bit more exciting, than the two of us or three of us debating Nebraska's game every week. And well, we know how Nebraska's played in the last handful of years since the inception of the HypeCast. So some would say that we're the reason that the team has struggled, but we would disagree. However, Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I debated wearing the Illinois hoodie. You guys gave me a ton of grief about that one of these past years of wearing Illinois gear on the week of Nebraska-Illinois.
Yeah, this show only supports Northern Colorado based on Bruntz wearing that quarter zip roughly half of the episodes. So, you'd have to check with our people to make sure that you could even pull that stunt off again.
I would willingly wear the Nebraska shirt if you guys wanted to sew one of those together. Like that wouldn't be completely biased. In fact, it would be as neutral could be.
Well, I think we can look into that. We'll see if our fashion department over here at Husker247 can put something together.
That kid is like in college now. I believe he's
someone caught up
Illinois.
with him last year, right? Like there was a story on him.
I saw him at an Illinois basketball game last winter. Strangely, the one game I went to over around the holidays. They had him on the Jumbotron at Assembly Hall, which is now State Farm Center in Champaign. And I was like, I should know that guy. I don't know. And then the light bulb went off.
Was that 2015? Is that what that is from? That I feel like that's the game. It was a classic Nebraska football game right there. We can discuss that at the end of the podcast if you'd like. But what we're going to do is discuss Nebraska-Illinois coming up on Friday. Of course, we're going to talk offense, defense, and we're going to have some oddly specific predictions, a pick to click, and a score prediction. I will say my oddly specific prediction, you guys are never going to believe this, but it already hit. I was coming into the show, and I was going to tell you that Illinois Stadium was going to start on fire randomly at some point, and it's already hit. So I'll come up with another one. Don't worry, but that has already happened. And I believe there is no expectation that it should alter anything with Friday's game, is what Illinois had put out either late last night or early this morning. Right, Kevin? You were the one that retweeted it.
Yeah, that is correct. The University of Illinois Tuesday evening said that there should be no impact. It was contained fairly quickly from what the reporters there in Champaign, some of which who I know, in fact, one of the guys walked down there to see what was going on because they had blocked off the perimeter. He said there was a lot of smoke and you could smell it. It was pretty potent, but they got it contained. And one of the firefighters, in fact, was injured when trying to, fight the fire. It sounds like something had to do with either their utility vehicles that are down underneath the south portion of the end zone or south stadium, or perhaps some other lawn equipment or other equipment they have to maintain the grounds.
Huh. Well, there you have it. All right, let's dive into the offense for this game. Michael Bruntz, I feel like you've been unhappy with the questions you have received in recent weeks. So we'll just start right away. We'll give you the easiest one. Who will be Nebraska's quarterback on Friday? I'm gonna say Saturday every time.
Yeah, no, that's tough to do. I think Harburg. I think I'll lean Harburg as we sit here on Wednesday morning, recording this, letting people behind the curtain to see how the sausage is made. I think Harburg. I mean, I think this is I don't think that he's done anything that would necessarily cause him to lose the job. I don't get the sense that – I don't know about you guys. Jeff Sims, from the comments, is making his way back, but not quite back. Like, I don't think that he's 100% yet or close to it. So I think they'll start Harburg, but I wouldn't rule out maybe seeing Jeff Sims at some point in this game in some form or fashion. I think he's close, but I think it's probably the Harburg show. And Matt Rule even said, this week there were things in that Michigan game that he actually liked that Harburg did. So that to find anything in that game that was, positive, you got to be, pretty dialed in on. But I think it'll be Harburg.
Kevin, as our Illinois expert here, as you look at what Nebraska has offensively, how limited they are, the injuries, everything, what would be the avenue that you would expect them to kind of go about trying to attack Illinois this year, as that defense has really struggled, replacing defensive coordinator Ryan Walters and all the guys they've lost to eligibility or to the NFL in recent years?
Run the ball. Simply, just run the ball. They're last in the Big Ten in rush defense. They've given up multiple 200-plus rushers this year. Scoring-wise, Illinois has allowed 30-plus on the season over a 2-3 start, which, they haven't played the most difficult 2-3 schedule to be 2-3. So Nebraska offensively, I would expect a lot of Anthony Grant. This is a game where I feel like he could get in a rhythm, and the offensive line could wear down Illinois' defensive line. They have two guys that are studs up front, the law firm of Newton and Randolph. But outside of those two, that defense, it's really struggled this year.
Brian, Nebraska's offensive line struggled against Michigan. Now, that's Michigan, not Illinois. But it felt like whatever positive momentum Nebraska had up front going into that Michigan game was kind of eradicated with a poor performance in pass protection, and they, weren't even really able to run the ball at all. Where are you at with this offensive line as we head to the 6th game of the season?
Same place I've been. They're okay. I think the thing they need to do is be like, okay, you play number 2 team in the country. You couldn't stack up to that. Going forward, you're not going to see a squad like that. You have to have some confidence in what you did the first 4 games, and it's piggybacking off what Kevin just said, that you can run the ball in this game. Like, there should be a belief you can do that. And over the course, it's body blow organization, and that rule likes to talk about what they want to do. That's the type of game you got to play Friday night. Anthony Grant's got to be really good. He's got to be secure at the ball, but up front, I think this is a game where Nebraska needs to hit 200 yards rushing to be on the winning side. And that's not like some bold, Illinois, what are they giving up here? 180 per game. So, I mean, there is an opportunity here for this group. They just got to kind of wash away what happened against Michigan. Michigan's Michigan, and you got to be like, all right, let's see if we can get going off of what we built before that.
Bruns, what have you kind of seen in the passing game here in recent weeks since Heinrich Haarberg has taken over at quarterback?
Not much. I think in very small fits and spurts, it's looked okay. I mean, I think there's some routes that he throws a little bit better than others. I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen more screen game or some of that kind of stuff to kind of get him going. But I don't know. I mean, we talk every week about, Nebraska needs to hit some deep shots. They haven't hit those. They've gotten the tight ends a little bit more involved than what they were, which I think is a positive. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know that this is a passing offense that you can really count on right now. And so, I mean, there's no update there really. I mean, I think Haarberg looks more confident as a passer. I think he hit 8 of 9 at one point against Michigan.
10 of 12 for 140 at one point.
So, that's a positive thing, but I don't know that, Nebraska's passing offense right now is something that's keeping opposing defensive coordinators up at night.
Kevin, what is Josh Fleeks going to do for an encore after a 70-yard touch, 70 yards? I don't know. It starts with a 7. I don't have the exact number in front of me.
74.
74. So not even close with the 2 that I said. Great. 74-yard touchdown from Josh Fleeks. The only thing preventing Nebraska from being shut out on Saturday. What realistically, if you're expecting a heavy game of Anthony Grant, how can Nebraska also potentially utilize someone like that who, showed home run potential in that game, obviously hitting one. And so, how can Nebraska kind of continue to try to utilize these pieces?
I'm not so sure they will continue to utilize Josh Fleeks. Even though he hit the big run, it was said before that game that he likely was not going to play at running back in the game. And then all of a sudden he emerges on the depth chart at number 2. So that paints the clearest of pictures of what the injuries have done to the running back room. But still, is he advanced enough in learning the system and feeling comfortable in the running back spot to be utilized? And plus, if you played Josh Fleeks over Emmett Johnson, what kind of message does that send to Emmett Johnson? I know they like him on special teams, but still, I mean, Emmett Johnson's been at this a few years now, and he's waiting for his turn. So if one 74-yard run supplants a guy on the depth chart, I don't know if that sends the best message to that room. However, Emmett's a great guy, and I could see him being totally cool with whatever role he has. But I wouldn't be so quick to think that just because of that one run and where he's placed on the depth chart now, that Josh Fleeks all of a sudden is going to get a lion's shares of the carries. I think maybe a couple touches, but if he gets 2 touches, I could see Emmett Johnson getting 4 touches.
All right, look at that. Kevin Sjuts throwing cold water on Josh Fleeks after his heroic performance in 1 carry last week. All right, BC, talk to us about Nebraska's special teams, particularly what are they doing at kicker with 3 straight misses for Tristan Alvano?
They're trusting him and they're sticking with. Well, I mean, they're sticking with him. Whether they are willing to kick a 41-yarder on a 4th and 2 will be an interesting thing if that comes up. Obviously, we all know what Tristan is capable of. It was at a different level, but same clutch situations where you got to win it for your team. He's done it before. He's got it within him. But right now, you have to wonder whenever you're a kicker and you're kind of going through it. It's just like when you're on the golf course. I feel like, and you're slicing it. You're kind of going up to the tee box, wondering a little bit where is this going to go. So you hope he has some strong practice week and just hits that first one and maybe gets a chip shot early on that kind of gets him going. That would really help. I think if he could get like a 27-yarder or something like that, although you'd love to finish that drive with a touchdown, it could help on.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball here. Brunts, Nebraska struggled really the entire game and in every aspect defensively against Michigan. They don't have another team like that on their schedule. You look at this Illinois team, they've struggled to run the ball, but their quarterback might be their best asset in the run game. Is that a concern for you? Because Nebraska has allowed some, 3rd down leak yardage on scrambles this year.
It is. It's interesting, the conversation a lot of this week has been about, the intensity, the mentality of how Nebraska approached that game against Michigan. And I think that's more about the defensive side of the ball. That Matt Rule didn't really, say explicitly that that's kind of where he was pointing his attention, but you could tell a noticeable difference in, how Nebraska was or wasn't attacking. And I think they definitely missed Deshaun Singleton and Luke Reimer in that game. Both of those guys are out again. I think for an Illinois offense that you look at the numbers, they look okay in passing, rushing, they're not great in terms of Big Ten teams. But that's, how you allow a team to stay in a game is if you allow a guy to pick up 9 on 3rd and 8 by leaking out or, not staying home on an RPO and kind of how that, plays out. So yeah, that is a concern. I think you need to be a little bit more aggressive up front. Is Nebraska going to force the issue more with pressure? They haven't done that the last few weeks. That's kind of what I'm all very curious to see is if that side of the ball can have a bounce back game and, really kind of force the issue and get back to playing the way they were against Minnesota and even against Colorado at points too.
Kevin, who are the pieces that we need to know on Illinois' offense? Because the last couple of years, it's largely just been Chase Brown. I believe Isaiah Williams still in the mix over there. But other than that, and Reggie Love, but it feels like there's some new pieces and maybe some new players that we should become familiar with.
Well, those are the 2 main ones right there. Reggie Love III is the replacement to Chase Brown, and he has not performed at the level in which a lot of people at Illinois thought he would. Nebraska fans are familiar with him. He's been kind of their second running back option, and he's popped some big runs against the Huskers over the past couple of years. But I think his lack of production has been a result of just the step down that this offensive line has had. It is not near the O-line that was really rough and tough and set the tone for Illinois' offense last year. They have some new pieces up front, one of which is Olin Kreutz's son. They're just trying to get him on the field and groom him. They think he's got a good long-term future, but he's going through some growing pains right now. Isaiah Williams really is kind of where the Illinois offense starts and ends. They find very unique ways to get him the football. He currently leads the Big Ten in receptions and receiving yardage. Some of these are just little shovel passes. They'll put them in motion, and it's like a jet sweep, but they throw it right in front, and it's deemed a pass into reception. It seems like Isaiah Williams has been there quite a while. In fact, he was recruited under Lovie Smith when he was the coach, and he was brought in out of the St. Louis area to be a quarterback. I think they saw him in the mold of Juice Williams, but with the crowded quarterback room when he came in, they moved him to wide receiver. They needed him on the field because he's very talented and he's got really good speed. So they find ways to get him the ball. However, that's part of Illinois' struggles right now is you can't just be a one-trick pony when it comes to playing offense in the Big Ten. You got to have some diversity, and that's what they're struggling to find. So let's see how Nebraska matches up against Isaiah, and let's see if they can bottle up Reggie Love III, which hasn't been all that difficult for Illinois' opponents so far this year.
BC, do we think this is a week Nebraska's pass rush can get a little bit back on track after kind of disappearing against Louisiana Tech, though it didn't feel like they sent more than 3 most of that game, and then largely, wasn't super involved against Michigan either?
Yeah, I think so. Illinois giving up 4 sacks per game so far this season, so it's a crew that struggled a little bit, and I think Tony White's going to be more aggressive. He kind of implied that yesterday at the press conference, like he needs to dial up and trust guys that they can get home. So an interesting freshman to watch, Prince Will. Prince Will's name came up, and I think he's going to get a few more reps, and he's playing that jack linebacker spot. So let's see if he can create some chaos. Maybe Cam Lenhart, pops back in and contributes as well. So I do think there's hope they can get some things going.
All right. Brunt, I mean, you talked about some of these injuries earlier. It's kind of hard because I think they're both important for different reasons. But, with Luke Reimer or Deshaun Singleton, which one do you think is going to be a bigger miss for Nebraska this upcoming Friday?
I would almost kind of lean Singleton. I mean, I think they have enough pieces at linebacker that they can move guys around. They have Bayer playing more interior linebacker now versus the jack spot. That's why Prince Will's at the jack. And you can kind of wallpaper over that a little bit. I mean, obviously Reimer not being there is a huge loss, especially in the side-to-side stuff. But Singleton, I felt like was a guy that had paired really nicely with Omar Brown. I think he's a guy that also, just with the way he plays, I think kind of demands aggressiveness from his teammates. I think that's what's kind of missed a little bit. And I think on the back end, they'll be okay with moving guys around. You've got, Phelan Sanford can play some safety. Quentin Newsom played a little bit of safety last week as well. But, I just think if in this defense, especially, if you can have that safety spot kind of locked down, I think you can do a lot of things. And I think that's where they really miss Singleton. And he was also really important in run support as well. I think that's where he was really showing up. So I would lean Singleton as the bigger loss in this one.
Kevin, Nebraska, I believe, has only forced 4 turnovers across 5 games so far. Do you think that there could be more coming, or are we just sort of looking at that's kind of what this defense is? They're competent, but maybe they're not explosive enough to put the other team in harm's way. It just seems a lot of it to me, anecdotally, just seems like they're really not that close to generating more turnovers. Like you don't see them ripping the ball loose from ball carriers. They're not getting their hands on passes for the most part. If they do, the ball happens to fall harmlessly to the turf. I guess so. I'm curious, do you feel like there could be more takeaways coming for Nebraska's defense, or are we just sort of looking at competent group that's just going to have to survive by getting teams off the field and keeping points down?
This week, yes, I think there will be more takeaways because Luke Altmaier will throw interceptions. He has 7 on the season over 5 games. And ball security has been an issue with Illinois. So I could see there being an uptick in takeaways this week, but long term, I think I'm kind of with you, Schaefer. I don't know that this team has it in its DNA to get the ball and take it away and maybe make a defensive score. I just, with the players they have on the field, they're good players, but I just don't see the game changer ability. Like on the edge, are you going to send a guy on a blitz and him blow up the quarterback and the ball come free? So far, there's only been maybe one moment where I've seen maybe a foreshadowing of that happening. It was MJ Sherman coming off the edge, I believe, against Northern Illinois. But so far, like getting home, it hasn't been in the vein of creating chaos and having the ball come free. And I do think the secondary, I've said this many times, I think the secondary is pretty good. You know, Deshaun Singleton, I agree with Brunson. I think that's the bigger absence for this defense moving forward. But Quentin Newsome, I think he's having a pretty good year. Hartzog, like these guys are capable of interceptions. But look at Newsome's career. He's a good cornerback, all Big Ten caliber cornerback. He has 0 interceptions. They don't always throw his way. So I think long term, this is maybe the defense you have that can contain teams, but they do it in a way that they don't necessarily take the ball away at a pretty high clip.
Yeah. BT, this doesn't have to be specific to defense, but Nebraska is back on the road after playing 3 straight games at home. Any challenges you see or anything for them that could be difficult going back into conference play on the road?
I mean, just snap cadence and stuff like that. Let's get the basics right. And if they can do that part, I mean, they'll have come a long way from what did them in at Colorado. So, I mean, you start there. Other than that, I don't think so. I don't think there's an advantage to going on the road or playing at home. I don't buy into that. I just think that, Harburg talked about creating their own energy. I mean, I think it should come pretty naturally in a game like this under the lights with I feel like your bowl season possibilities maybe on the line. So hopefully you're fired up and hopefully you just got the basics dialed in so that you're not giving away free snaps and making it 2nd and 15 and having to overcome that because you're dropping the ball or your cadence is off.
All right. Well, we here at Husker247 HypeCast hope that you're fired up as well. We'll return with some oddly specific predictions. Can't talk. Picks to click and score predictions as well. Oddly specific prediction time. Who wants to start? Who's got a good one? Anybody? All right. So no volunteer. Oh, no. BC has volunteered as tribute. What do you got for us?
It's going to be a 33-yard touchdown by Anthony Grant on an option play. This time on the pitch comes his way, and he takes it down the sideline, kind of tip. There'll be a question if he stepped out of bounds at the 12-yard line or not, but he kept his toe just inside and scores.
All right. I'll throw this one out there. Jalen Lloyd is going to score his first career touchdown on Friday, and it will come on one of those like pop pass plays where the quarterback gets a snap and just sort of like lightly pitches it forward a yard as Lloyd runs across the formation. Nebraska is able to snap this without issue. So that's the first part of the prediction. The second part is that, Harburg gets it to Lloyd. Lloyd gets it to the end zone. We'll say 23 yards for Nebraska. Brunts?
Tristan Alvano has a bounce back game. He has only made 1 field goal this year. He's going to make 3 on Friday night. One of those, however, it's going to be a little dicey, and I think he's going to hit the upright and somehow bounce it through. So 3 made field goals, 1 off the upright, and I think the 1 off the upright, we'll say it's probably from about 37. How about that? And maybe the right upright as you look at the uprights.
So 3 made field goals on 3 total attempts?
I didn't say that. But
no, I'm forcing you to get even more specific here.
He's going to go 3 for 4, and the 37 yarder is going to go off the upright and through off the right upright and through.
Okay, one more. What's the longest of the 3 made kicks?
41.
Okay, all right, there you have it. We're going to hold him to that. Kevin, what do you got?
I, like Bruntz, will be talking about special teams. However, I'm going with the kickoff return team. I see a Tommy Hill 98-yard touchdown run or a touchdown return, which he would be headed toward the south end zone. And as he crosses the goal line, as celebration, he sticks out his hand and acts like he's lighting a match, maybe in poor taste. And it'll create a fascinating storyline for how Matt Rule handles a celebration on a long overdue special teams touchdown.
I love it. I love it. All right, pick to click. Brunt, who you got?
I'm just imagining him like doing it on his arm or something like that. I'm dying. Pick to click. I will go. I'll say Anthony Grant. I think the numbers say that if Nebraska is willing to stick with it and to really dedicate themselves to the run, that Anthony Grant could have an okay game here. So I'll say Anthony Grant will. He'll break a couple long ones, but I think this is a game where Nebraska hopefully can move the ball on the ground. If they can't do it this week, it's going to be a long rest of the way in conference play.
All right. I'll go Thomas Fedoni. Gets back on the touchdown train. He will score against Illinois on a play action pass in the red zone. BC.
Javen Wright, I think, is the best bet, one of the best bets for Nebraska to create a takeaway. He gets a sack and forces a fumble in the process.
Kevin?
Nate Borkircher, like your line of thinking with Fedoni, but I'm going to go Borkircher. Maybe been underutilized to this point. Perhaps he has some opportunities to catch the ball on Friday and possibly get into the end zone.
All right. I have no idea where this is going to go with the score predictions. I don't know what anyone's going to do for a score. I don't know who people are predicting for a winner. And we will go ahead and put BC on the spot to get us started here. Give us your score prediction, Brian.
I'm going to pick Illinois 22-17. Nebraska can certainly win this game. It's just until they do it in a setting like this, I'm kind of going to pick the other way. I do hope one of you picks Nebraska, though, because I very much think they win this game. So, I think this is a game that comes down to the last 5 minutes. Can Nebraska find that play that has sort of been missing in those situations?
Brunt?
Yeah, this game is a rough one. Like, you look at the little chart that they send out on Mondays with like where teams are ranked in the conference and nationally. It's ugly, real bad for both of these teams. That said, I think somehow Nebraska, against all odds, finds a way to make a late field goal to win this game. One of the three that Tristan Alvano will make on the day.
The 41-yarder.
The 41-yarder. I'm predicting a Nebraska 22-20 win over Illinois. And it's going to be this is not going to be a pretty game. It's going to be one of those where it's on FS1 on Friday night. You're trying to find plans, do something. If you are so inclined, you might be looking to see if San Jose State is playing on Friday night to potentially change over to that game. Maybe Air Force, but they're off this week. Big one against Wyoming next week. But yeah, I think that's how it's going to play out. So I will say 22-20 Nebraska.
Illinois has played in some weird games already this year, some weird score games already this year, and I think they're going to get another on Friday night. I think Nebraska wins 26-19 by a touchdown over Illinois. I'm with everybody. I think it's a toss-up game. I could see it going either way. But I also feel like this is probably the easiest game left on Nebraska's schedule. So if they can't win this, it could be a long ride to the finish line. Kevin, take it home.
You guys need to get out of my brain because oddly, I was thinking it was going to be a close game. I see Nebraska winning. And like Schaefer just said, it's going to be a weird score because that's kind of Illinois, and the dumpster fire jokes were running wild on Tuesday. I don't think they're very good. I'm going to take Nebraska. I said this before you said I've got Illinois at 19 points, Schaefer. So I don't know if you've ever had on the HypeCast two people picking the number 19 as a score for a losing team, but I got 21-19 Nebraska beating Illinois.
We do need to figure out a Husker247 HypeCast scoregami to just make sure that we know whether we've had it covered before. But I don't think we've had two different 19s picked. So that's exciting. All right. Well, so three people end up going Nebraska. BC ends up going Illinois. You can send him all of your hate mail. He will happily write you back. All right. Anything that Kevin, anything you want to add here before we depart?
Okay, I have a rant, or I guess some advice for anybody traveling to this game. I don't know how many people will actually do that since it's Friday and it's a pair of 2 and 3 bottom Big Ten West teams. If you're traveling and you're driving, you do not take Interstate 80. You take Route 36. It goes through northern Missouri. It's 4-lane highway all the way through. It's a much more peaceful drive. Enjoy the harvest. I don't know if it's going to be raining or not, but hey, you're going to have some farm machinery maybe to navigate around, but nothing too terrible. You got to know your stops. Brookfield, Cameron, Chillicothe. Look them up. Use Google Maps. Take 36. Stay away from I-80.
Incredible. You know what I know? I know Brunt's is going down I-80. That's what I know.
No, not. We're
done it in the past.
I know Kevin has hammered this into us that we are team what is it, 36?
Route 36.
Route 36. We took that to Indianapolis. It was great. We're going to do the same thing this week, morning of the game. So we'll dodge the deer and deers, the John Deeres, and we'll get there. We'll be there.
The finest dining on Route 36 you'll get may be Subway, though. That's the one drawback. But I'm telling you, for your sanity behind the wheel, it's worth it.
BC will bring the cooler with the cold cuts. We'll be good.
Love it. All right. The game is on Friday, but you can get all of the Husker 24/7 coverage no matter what, any time of the day, any day of the week. We will have all of the coverage from the game. We'll have high school coverage leading up to it. We will have recruiting coverage, as we always do. And, of course, we'll have plenty of post-game coverage and analysis, so be sure to check that out at Husker247.com throughout the week. Kevin, appreciate you joining us here today.
Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy a Friday game in Champaign, Illinois.
He says because he and I are not attending this one. All right. Well, for Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson, Kevin Sjuts, I'm Mike Schaefer. You have been listening to Husker 24/7.